Well, I'd say challenge risen to.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I thought it went well. They played six really old songs. I'm looking at this set list and I'm thinking nothing before like 1973 here, and then all of a sudden they played "Dear Prudence," which was never played by the Grateful Dead. And
That's right, but
but it
has
was a
been a Rat
Jerry
Dogs
tune, right?
well, a Rat Dog staple actually for quite some. Jerry played it with the JGB, but Rat Dog played it for some years, and I think maybe some of the post Dead bands have played it before. And so Jay knows it well with Bobby and Wolf Bros and all that. So they cater to some of Jay's strengths, of course, but Jay's got a lot of strengths. He knows this book well. He and Mickey locked in nicely. Um, very happy, very proud of Jay. We love you, Jayski. Nice work. And one more set of that to go. David, why don't you run down the first set list? We have a few other things to talk about before we get to our guests, but let's run down that
We
set list and
do.
then we'll move on.
Yeah, they open with a really nice deep groove of Not Fade Away into New Speedway Boogie, Big Railroad Blues, Tennessee Jed, Friend of the Devil. They love each other. Again, all early 70s tunes. And then Dear Prudence. And then they finished with Don't Ease Me, and another even older song from the Grateful Dead book. So it was a very interesting set. And very, yeah, definitely seemed to be favoring stuff that Jay had some familiarity with. But, as I was just texting with our friend Deb Trist out in Eugene, Oregon, and the phrase that came across from her keyboard was, Jeff Chimenti can do no wrong.
As always, he is so strong on the structures of these songs, and you can literally physically see everyone in the band looking to him, to like guide them through a certain change or modulation. He's a great orchestrator of this music, in addition to being a fantastic player. We should note that "Don't Ease Me In" was back to the fun size version after they played a 10-minute one some time ago, and also "They Love Each Other" was back to the more relaxed tempo after they blew our minds with the a tempo more akin to the 1973 one the other day. So they're mixing things up still. For those who are just tuning in, this is first of all, this is Dead Air with Lambert and Gans. If you're just tuning in, you're maybe wondering what the heck was going on up on stage, because Bill Kreisman is not there tonight. He was unable to play because of an illness, undesignated, but specified not to be COVID, we're happy to say. We hope Bill recovers speedily. And Jay Lane came out to Colorado on very short notice to fill in with the band and is doing a splendid job so far. So we're happy to be here. We hope Billy is back with us soon. Anyway, David, we have a few things to talk about. First of all, this is a halftime show we do, which is also included in the preview that you get from nugs.net if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook Live. But it is also to entice you to perhaps purchase the entire show. You can then go back and watch the whole show for 48 hours after you've purchased it, as many times as you want. You can purchase the entire tour. A lot of options. You can also subscribe to nugs.net and get their amazing library of music by all kinds of artists, including every Dead and Company show going back to 2016. Lots of options. We encourage you to go to livedead.co to check it out.
Indeed, we do. And also, before we move on with our program, I wanted to remind our viewers that I've been passing the hat for Robin Sylvester. It's great that we've got Jay Lane here tonight. They were bandmates in Rat Dog for many years. Bob Weir and Rat Dog. And I've also played with Robin many times in the studio and on stage. He's a wonderful human being and a tremendous bass player. And he's had long-term health problems. He's been on the kidney donor list for more than 10 years. And he's had some recent issues that have put him in physical rehab places, and he's at home now, but he needs 24-hour attendant care, and that's why we're trying to raise a big pile of money for him so that he doesn't wind up losing his home, having to pay for his health care. It's been a remarkably successful, delightfully successful campaign so far. I'm hoping to raise $100,000 for him. I sent $30,000 over to Robin yesterday, so we're well on our way, but there's plenty of room for more, and we would appreciate any amount that you can give. Right there on your screen, it says paypal.me/truefunddonations. Every cent that comes to that account gets sent to Robin. And we'll remind you again in a day or two about this, because it's an ongoing campaign, and we really, really want him to get his needs met, because he's just a lovely human being, as well as a tremendous musician with a deep, deep history in this scene that we're a part of here.
Indeed. He's, in fact, a partner of Jay Lane's in many ventures, including Rat Dog for many years. So I'm sure Jay would endorse this as well. And we thank you for your attention to that. Hey, as long as we're talking about funding, this is not a dire health need we're talking about. We're delighted to say that our friend Rosie McGee made her goal on her Kickstarter campaign to fund her beautiful new Grateful Dead photo coffee table book. And it apparently got quite a bump after we talked about it on Friday and again on Sunday on Tales from the Golden Road. So congratulations to Rosie, a dear person, great photographer, and that's going to be a great book. And one more item, we have some birthday wishes to impart, don't we, David?
We do indeed. Derek Featherstone, the front of house guy for Dead and Company and one of the principals of ultrasound, and another fine human being who's part of this intensely creative scene around here. I'm not sure what birthday it is, but I'm glad he's spending it with us, doing such a fine job on the audio feed.
Indeed, a big part of the reason this is sounding so good to you in your living rooms right now. But hey, let's bring in our special guest, shall we?
Let's do that. Without further ado, he's a senior writer at Rolling Stone. He's the author of several books of interest to this culture, including So Many Roads, The Life and Times of the Grateful Dead, and Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, another book called Fire and Rain, which is a history of music in 1970. And other books. Let's invite, please, David Brown to join us. Hi.
Hey, guys.
We sure got you on board for an interesting event in Grateful Dead musical history.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me aboard. I've always enjoyed those visits to Tales from the Golden Road, and it's always a blast to talk to you guys. So it's really a treat, and thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. Great to have you.
But so this was. Oh, sorry, Gary. I just wanted to jump on something Gary said a little while ago, talking about the set that really jumped out at me was the word relaxed. I thought, going into this, we all thought, wait a minute, what's going on? Bill's not going to be here. Obviously, Jay is a super experienced player, but, there's always that question mark in the air. And I thought from beginning to end, they just locked into that groove, and they just seemed unruffled by it all. Testament to their musicianship and camaraderie and rolling with the punches, as you guys said earlier.
Yeah, there's great confidence in one another, evident there, and also confidence in Jay's ability because he's been around this repertoire for a long time. He and Bobby and Jeff have so much history. So, yeah, once they got over the initial challenge, it seemed very natural. Speaking of challenges, in the immortal words of Dr. Evil in Austin Powers, it's freaking freezing up here, Mr. Bigglesworth. It was 41 degrees at showtime. It's supposed to get down into the 30s by the end of the last set. And as you can see by the winter gear everyone's wearing on stage, it's a big challenge there. Hands tend to get stiff. Throats tend to seize up. I think they're doing really well under those challenging circumstances as well. So kudos to the band on every level.
Yeah, it's not easy, man. I've been out there in 40-degree weather. It is not fun.
Yep.
I definitely crossed my mind too as I was watching it, and they all had those. They come on. They're all wearing parkas. Bob looking like some cast member in some Pale Rider or something. He's got the whole poncho kind of thing going on in the hat. And I felt bad for them, how can you move around with all those heavy coats on? But it clearly didn't impede them. But yeah, it must be chilly up there for sure.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. So
Well,
tell us about. Go ahead, Gary. No, you.
no, I was just pausing to let you fill your pause. But anyway, we just wanted to get around to David's work writing about the Grateful Dead and your journalistic career in general. You've been a music journalist for a very long time. I first became familiar with your work, I believe, in Entertainment Weekly, and you've moved on to many years in Rolling Stone. So let's talk about how you got started in writing about music and getting to do it for a living.
Oh boy. I guess I started way back in high school in Clifton, New Jersey. Just, grew up reading Rolling Stone and Crawdaddy and Cream and all those kind of magazines, and loved music, and just thought, and you guys probably the same, thought like, wow, wouldn't that be fun to do for some kind of living, and just kind of slowly worked my way up the totem pole, as it were, back then, and worked at the Daily News and Entertainment Weekly and so on, and been very kind of fortunate to do it since then. And it's writing about music is utterly fascinating because it's constantly changing. There's
Have you
just
ever,
when you think.
Have you ever played an instrument? Were you ever in a band?
Not in a band, but played guitar. Took guitar lessons when I was 13 for a couple of years. The highlight of my performing career was jamming with a bunch of my roommates at NYU on an endless version of Down by the River until the resident fellow on our floor barged in. We even had a drum kit because one of my roommates was a drummer, so we were rocking out in the dorm room to Down by the River and Down on the Corner by Creedence. And any song with Down we just went with, and we got shut down, but that was really fun. And I still play guitar, but just as a hobby. It sort of helps. It helps in a way to appreciate music. Certainly makes me appreciate musicians a lot more with my own limited skills. When I see, like tonight, I'm seeing John Mayer up there just effortlessly, just peeling off those solos, and some of them were just. I'm just looking at my notes here. I mean, amazing solo at the end of Big Railroad Blues. I thought did a terrific job, and the They Love Each Other solo toward the end. I mean, he's just. And singing, again, as someone who has the most basic rudimentary musician skills, I say, wow, he's playing his amazing solos and singing at the same time and going back and forth so quickly. And David, you're a player, I mean, I think I look at that and I go, that's a real skill to do that, and he's able to just do it so beautifully and fit in so well with the band.
I've just been astonished. Yeah, his command of this stuff. I was going to ask you, because you are a music journalist and you are probably actually familiar with John Mayer's work from before, and have an idea of like what does this surprise you at all that he came into this with such enthusiasm and has done such an amazing job of it?
I'm absolutely fascinated by John's integration into this band. It's now been 6 years since 6 years this month, I believe, since his first gig with them. And I was just thinking about that the other day as gearing up for this show. And I think I'm right in thinking that he's maybe the guy who's lasted the longest in this slot, in this sort of, filling those incredibly big shoes of Jerry. Yeah. I mean, we had John Kay. That was 5 years. But now John Mayer has taken it to 6. And, it's absolutely fascinating to me because, I remember very clearly going to that. My first Dead and Company show was just about 6 years ago. It was Halloween in 2015 at the Garden. And I remember going with a friend of mine, Mike Shine, fellow Deadhead here in New York. And I remember as we were walking into the venue, we were thinking, what is this going to be like? all the guitar players who had come before, post Jerry, all incredibly accomplished guys, Trey, Warren Haynes, Jimmy Herring, all these guys, really talented. Each brought something really different and new to the band. But at the same time, it made sense when you heard that they would be playing with these guys. They seemed to fit into that universe really well. John Mayer was the first one where I thought, I'm not sure I get this, And I remember my friend Mike and I walking in thinking, on one hand, we're very curious and we're open to this. And at the same time, having a little bit of like, prove it to us, dude. I remember by the end of the first set, we were looking at each other like, wow, he's. I mean, we know he's a good guitar player, John Mayer, but he's taking this very seriously. I mean, he was all business that night. There was nothing goofy or anything about it, or light, or I should say, not lighthearted is the right word, but. He meant business. He clearly had studied the material. He wanted to impress the audience. And I remember that right toward the end of the show, they did a morning dew that was fantastic. And I remember his solos on that were just tremendous. And I remember thinking, wow, he might be the right guy for this job. And knowing his pop material before, knowing his instrumental, he'd done a record with a power trio that was more like a blues rock kind of thing. But it was like I was pretty blown away and pretty amazed that he fit in so well, and he still is.
Yeah, the whole arc of John's career has been sort of a process of revealing new layers of himself. Because he first came upon the scene as a pop star, writing these very romantic poppy kind of tunes. That was just sort of the baseline perception of him. But over the years, you find out, well, he put in some time at Berklee College of Music, and he then studied at the knee of people like B.B. King and Buddy Guy. And he wasn't just a guy like playing blues off of records. He was really going to the masters for tutelage. And he's got an incredibly wide range of musical interests. If you read his Instagram feed, every now and then he'll link to like a video of Bill Evans playing piano and rhapsodize about how great Bill Evans is. So he's always trying to educate his audience. So when he first came into Dead and Company, I actually got to interview him at Madison Square Garden during that first run he played with the band for Sirius XM. And I found out, we know he got turned on to the band through hearing Althea and then picking up on other songs. He didn't just become a fan, he became a disciple. He really dove in deep, and he got under the hood of this music and figured out how it works, and figured out, how harmonically the relationships between the players works. So by the time he got to Dead and Company, he had done so much homework, that he was just ideal for the gig. It's fascinating, really.
And it's been amazing watching him grow into it. This tour, I really think has been another little level up for him in terms of his command of this material and his articulating his own style in it. I found that really satisfying. He's doing a lot of stuff with that whammy bar, bending entire chords and stuff in a way that I find really impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he feels like he's just at home with it too. It just doesn't seem like, compared to that first show that I saw way back then, where he seemed just so at ease, and it's just there's almost a unspoken vibe now between the bands. I don't feel like John has to really prove himself anymore at all. He has, and they can dig a little deeper into the repertoire and things like that. Even though, as you guys said, the first set here definitely leaned toward particular early 70s period. So it was going to be really interesting to see what comes up, and why do we think it leaned into that early 70s period? Maybe but what are your theories?
Well, I think they wanted to keep it kind of basic because Jay was called in on such short notice, and they had to pick some tunes that they knew he'd be comfortable with. But it's also interesting that having been in Rat Dog was a band that brought back some things the Grateful Dead had retired, and picked up some some really adventurous jams and things like that. So I think the door will be pretty open, for the second set. They may have kept it fairly simple in the first set just as a courtesy to the to the ringer, but the improvisational part of the music leaves the door wide open. Of course, the second set is tailor made for that. So I'll be interested to see what the Rhythm Devils segment looks like tonight. That to me is one of the intrigues, because we've never seen Mickey do that with anybody but Billy, and maybe O'Teal will jump in again as he has been known to do. So yeah, that should be fascinating, and we get to watch it together and find out.
I have to interject with the business, the Nugsnet business here, that we are offering up a free sample of the Dead and Company live stream on Nugsnet. If you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook Live, we want you to go over to livedead.co and sign up to buy the thing. You can go back and watch the first set later. You can watch the entire show again, like 4 times in a row tomorrow, because it's good for 48 hours once you start watching it. And there's a lot of other options. You can subscribe to the entire season and go back and watch the first leg of the tour and all the stuff you might have not seen yet. That stuff's all available. Audio downloads in a great number of formats and stuff. So this here is to be more entertaining than a card that says, please stay tuned. But we also want to inspire you with our enthusiasm for this music to go and sign up with Nugsnet to acquire more of it and enjoy the full set of what you're about to hear instead of settling for just the first song for free. livedead.co.
Indeed. I'm having some trouble in my earphones right now, so you guys talk amongst yourselves for a second.
Technical difficulties.
David, let's talk about your book, So Many Roads. I really enjoyed So Many Roads, The Life and Times of the Grateful Dead. I enjoyed the way you did that book. Tell us about it a little bit, please.
Sure. Thanks for the kind words. I wrote, the book came out in 2015, and I worked on it for a few years leading up to that. And I had written a book before that called Fire and Rain, which you were nice enough to mention, which was about the year 1970, which pulled me back into writing about some of the very first records I ever owned in my collection, like Bridge Over Troubled Water and Deja Vu and Let It Be and so forth. And while I was in that mode, I enjoyed so much writing about the records that informed me as a kid and still play to this day. I said, I kind of want to stay in that zone. And I thought, well, at the time there weren't that many books on the Dead in terms of biographies. So I thought, well, gee, maybe I can add something to that. And so I did my best to do that and interviewed some of the guys in the band and lots of people who worked with them and knew them over the years, and structured it in such a way, tried to make it a little different so that each chapter was about a particularly pivotal day or a couple of days in their whole saga, and using those moments in those days as a window into where they were as a band and as people at that particular point, and which made it a lot of fun for me, a little trying to play around with the structure. And it was you guys, as you guys both know, having written books on the Dead, it's a lot of work, and but rewarding, and hope I brought out a few new elements and aspects.
You definitely have.
It was a lot of fun.
That's this story is so complex. It has so many amazing characters in it, and so many interesting events, and so many different perspectives on them that every biography is going to bring different stories, different anecdotes, different data points into it, and different perspectives. And yours, as you say, by selecting moments in the band's history, In the same way that our book, This Is All a Dream We Dreamed, it wasn't the history, it was a collection of stories that ornament the history. And yours kind of tells the story, illustrating it with specific episodes, and adds tremendously to our understanding of who those people were and how it worked.
Well, thanks so much, David. I really appreciate that coming from you. And you know, it was fun reading. You know, your book came out a few months. You and Blair's book came out a few months after mine, and it's so fascinating to read people's different takes on the same event, in my book and in yours, and how it's that Rashomon thing. You know, everybody sees things differently, and that's really true in the story of the Grateful Dead. You know, everybody brings a whole different little take on it, and I really enjoyed your book as well. I mean, it was just the oral history format is just so perfect for this kind of story. So you guys did a tremendous job as well.
Because this cast of characters is so huge and articulate. Sorry, Gary, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that's true of really any book is, by its very nature, informed by the perspectives or agendas, if you will, of the people you get to talk to for it. You know, had a discussion the other day about the Ken Burns Jazz documentary, and how that sort of got shaped by the fact that Ken Burns was advised by certain people on that. And so it took a dim view of certain aspects of jazz, and you know, it was rightly accused of advancing an agenda. You know, so it's really good to see authors like you guys. You know, by the way, you credited me with writing a Grateful Dead book, David. I have not, and
okay.
I don't know if I'm gonna...
I meant the almanac and stuff like that.
Oh, right, right. I guess that adds.
Yeah.
I guess that
adds.
That adds up to a book if you glue them all together. But anyway, you know, it's
kind of what I meant.
both of your books impressed me in that they did take in so many of the perspectives, and you know, and try to provide. You can't really provide a balanced view, but you can provide a varied view, you know, from all those perspectives, and that to me is it's a sign of good, well-made history.
Well, thanks so much, Gary. Appreciate that.
And not to change the subject,
to what you were saying.
Go ahead.
I just want to just go back to, earlier we were talking about Jay, and one of the things that was really interesting to me in the first set was watching like Jay keeping his eye on Mickey a lot of the times. It seemed like watching the interaction between those two guys in the set. You weren't getting too many close-ups, but you saw Jay really like focusing in and trying to lock in with Mickey even visually or something, you know, eye to eye kind of thing, which I don't know if Bill and Mickey did that as much, given they worked together so much over the years, if that was necessary. But did you guys pick up on any of that interaction between Mickey and Jay?
Oh yeah. And also, you know, I saw O'Teal, you know, turn back toward the drum riser more often than you'll often see him, because I think he was trying to, you know, bolster what Jay was doing and respond to what he was doing. Each person in the band I saw, you know, I mean, Bobby tends to just, you know, go straight ahead and do what he's doing and expect everyone else to do their job. I was amused by Bob's little jab. This was very typical of Bob and Jay's relationship. He said, Bill's not with us tonight, and to make matters worse, we've got Jay Lane. So that's the Bob Weir Jay Lane relationship in a nutshell right there. They love each other and they give each other a lot of crap. But yeah, I saw Jeff looking over to Jay, you know, and sort of emphasizing certain accents and things like that, and it really worked well. You know, I was really, you could, if you close your eyes, I mean, you might know stylistically that it sounded different than Billy, but you wouldn't know that anything was really amiss, and that's a great sign given an emergency situation like this.
By the way, we had confirmation from the authorities backstage that this indeed Bill Kreutzmann has never missed a show before today.
Right.
That's
There was one
amazing.
Right. There was one Grateful Dead show I remember that got canceled outright because Bill flew from Orlando to California because his father was ill. But that was not a matter of bringing in a ringer. And I remember one show at the Greek Theater. This is incredibly trivial, where Bill left the stage numerous times because he was having some kind of stomach distress, and Mickey I remember in an Eyes of the World, Greek theater. I can't remember what year. Mickey like holding down the
Wow.
traps on Eyes of the World. You could probably find that tape somewhere. But Bill has never missed a complete show with any of these bands. So we wish him well.
Oh yeah.
Wow. I did see somebody
Which-
ask on Twitter, was this the first show, Dead-related show, where it was just Bob and Mickey on stage from the the core lineup? Yeah. Another interesting twist.
Certainly, there were tours without. I mean, we're talking in post-Dead tours. There were the first Further festivals, which was the Bob Weir. There was Rat Dog and the Mickey Hart Band, and there was Interaction that just involved, Mickey is the only drummer, I think. But that's all not in the official record book. We separate our statistics of Grateful Dead and everything else and everything after. But yeah, Bill has been an incredible trooper, doing an incredibly strenuous job for an incredibly long time, and we know you can't keep a good man down, so we hope Bill will be back at the traps pretty soon. So we are waiting for the band to come back on. We have gotten no particular signal as to the progress. This is a delightful feature of this halftime show, David Brown, that is, where we are in suspense to a certain extent as band members trickle back on stage. We have a few band members on stage, we are told, from Central Control. So in the middle of this, we may just get the word lights flashed on our chat here, and then we will just cut off and go back to the show. That's not us being rude to you, Mr. Brown. That is the way things work with this band.
I get it. I get it. That's rock and roll for you.
Indeed. What are you working on now, David?
Well, let's see. I just had a big story come out in Rolling Stone last week about Eric Clapton, which has gotten some interesting reactions, just examining his his whole situation with the vaccine and lockdowns, and looking back over some other parts of his life and career that have been controversial. And he's sort of like in the spotlight again in a way that a lot of us didn't expect. So that's been interesting. And working on a new book now about history of music in Greenwich Village, which is kind of a project I've been wanting to do for ages, and finally carving out some time to do that, talking about that whole rise and fall and of that great neighborhood, and And it's been a lot of fun so far, interviewing everybody from longtime Dead compadre Ramblin' Jack Elliott, who's 90 and still doing gigs and talking, all the way up through more recent people, the Suzanne Vegas and Sean Colvins of the world, and so that's going to be a lot of fun to kind of go through that whole saga. And,
I'm really looking forward to that.
Oh, thanks, guys. I'll probably have to pick your brain, Gary.
What's left of it? I grew up here in New York, and I was a little too young for the heyday of Gertie's Folk City and the original burst of folk. But when I was in my teens, I started going to the Cafe A Go-Go. I saw the Grateful Dead at the Cafe A Go-Go. Their last visit there, not the first, in '67. Saw all those bands like the Blues Project and a lot of the bands that were very much part of the Village scene. So it's played a very important role in my life, and I really look forward to your book.
Well, thanks. I will be picking your as I did with the Dead book. I will be picking your brain again and wishing I could somehow steal your brain and inhabit it for a while. I've actually interviewed most of the guys in the Blues Project right now, actually, for the book. So,
that's
the bands like that, and I talked to John Sebastian about the Lovin' Spoonful, and the whole folk rock period during that Village era is really interesting. The way when it transitioned from the folk to the folk rock, and then on to other things. So that was a real pivotal period. And God, Gary, you were there. I'm so jealous. I was just a little teeny kid when that was going on.
Like I said, just the very tail end of it. And I guess, the East Village also counted as part of Greenwich Village. So Fillmore East, of course, was pivotal to the development of the scene. Feel free to steal my entire brain. You won't get much for it at a pawn shop, I guarantee you. But anyway, so David, what's it been like, working at Rolling Stone all these years? And it's a magazine that's gone through numerous transitions recently. I mean, Jan Wenner kind of got out of the picture. And what are things like at Rolling Stone these days?
Well, we have a new editor-in-chief, Noah Shackman, who just started a little over a month ago. He came to us from the Daily Beast, and he's bringing some new energy and some excitement to it. He comes from kind of a political reporting background and sort of as much as pop culture. And, it's evolving with the times, as it always is. I mean, we're covering, rightly so, more hip hop and more kind of contemporary pop, because that's, hip hop is the most dominant music of our time and deserves the full on Rolling Stone treatment. But at the same time, we are, as always, writing about the classic artists that the magazine has covered for over 50 years. And that's one of the things that's fun about it. We try to strike that balance on one hand. In fact, let's see, today's Tuesday. 2 days from now, I'll be interviewing Carl Palmer about some ELP related stuff that's going to be in the works. Yeah. And yet, we're also, not me, but, interviewing lots of, we just came out with a cover of, say, Olivia Rodrigo and Alanis Morissette together, and David Byrne and Lorde together for our Musicians on Musicians covers. So, we're still trying to cover the waterfront, and Jan is not involved as much anymore, but, we're trying to keep that spirit going, and I'm sure we will still be covering, as we always have, various Dead-related projects. We're always monitoring that, and who knows what's next on that. I think I interviewed Bob a couple of years ago for it, and other people have been some other things we've done recently relating to them. Unfortunately, we did some Robert Hunter tributes when he passed 2 years ago.
Hey, lights
sadly.
on, everybody. We got to go, David. The band is back on stage.
Thanks for joining
Thank you
us.
for being with us.
Thanks, guys.
Enjoy, everybody.
It was a blast.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
distant places if you look at it right. Look at it right. Look at it right. Look at it right. There ain't nothing wrong with the way that she's moves. Or Scarlet Begonias or a touch of the blues. to shake their hand. Everybody playing in the heart of Gold Band, heart of Gold Band. coming.